Good evening, everyone. I warmly welcome everyone to the fifth session of our online Introduction to React Library series. In our previous four sessions on Reacting with Node, we have started with introduction and covered hooks, router, and Redux topics. Today, we are diving deeper into React's intricacies. Whether you are new or experienced, there is something for everyone. Let's learn, engage, and make the most of this opportunity together. We encourage you all to actively participate and ask questions from our speaker. And now I hand over the session to our speaker, Ms. Thanaruby. Ms. Thanaruby, it's over to you.
Thanks, Veronica. Good evening, everyone. So today we are going to learn about API. What is API? Normally, when we are creating a system, our front end and back end will be in different place. And to connect both of those ends, we use something called API, that is application programming interface. So from front end, we are learning front end development. So from front end to get the backend information, we get it through API. To get the information through API, we have methods like fetch, and in React, we have libraries like Axios. So today we are going to access API informations. So in JavaScript, fetch is a method to access API. In fetch, we have methods like we have all these methods: get, post, delete, patch, and put. We use get method to get information and post method to send some information. Say we are adding an employee to our database, so then we'll use post method. If we are going to delete an employee from our database, delete, and to edit, patch and put. So when we are sending those data to the API will normally give us response. So it gives us a code and a response. So normally this is the code our API gives us. So if it is from 200 to 299, it's success. Normally for success, it gives 200. And error code, 404 error code, like that, we get error codes. So today what we are going to do is, we are going to take a sample API. You can just Google and get test APIs online. This is one site, dummyjson.com. So here I can get some APIs to add, edit, delete data. So they have given some sample APIs here. Today I'm going to use this users. So give me a second. Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing my screen. Okay. Okay. You can see my screen.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Yeah. So these are the methods, and these are the responses. So here today I'm going to use this sample API to try out these methods. So in this site we have they have given some endpoints for some sample functions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select user endpoints. So here they have given endpoints to get data. They have given a proper documentation, so I can refer what is the output I'll get if I call this data. So they have a database and they have this data. When I call this endpoint, I'll get this information in my application. So this is get endpoint, and this is also get to get the current user who is logged in, to get a specific user with user ID, and search a user, and post method to add a user. Here I'll give my data in the body and post it to the endpoint. This is the structure of endpoint. Normally, the backend developers will provide us with the documentation with this endpoint and the method to use and the output that method, that endpoint will give us with these informations. So delete endpoint, and we have a put or patch endpoint here. So we have this endpoint, and we are also going to look into Axios. Axios is a library we have. This fetch is a JavaScript function. Axios is equivalent to fetch, but it has some proper error handling methods. So it's easier and very manageable for us to use. So let us look into Axios too, because this has, if you go to their npm.js page, they have given how to use this package. So here in fetch, we have to give the method and give the headers, and we have to stringify our data and send it. We have those works, but in Axios, we can eliminate those works, and we can easily give informations like, say, if it is a get method, I'll use like axios.get, then the endpoint, the URL, and the parameters. What are parameters is here in search, we are using something like this is a parameter, limit equals to 5 and skip equals to 10. Those are parameters. If I'm going to pass these parameters in Axios, how I will use this is here, like ID equals to something, I'll pass like limit equals to something and skip equals to something like that. I'll pass the parameters. And here we can get post. For post also, I can give the URL and then the object to add to my endpoint or database. So here what we do in post method is we give the method, then give the headers, then body, and we stringify it and send it. In Axios, I can straightly send this object with the endpoint. So, and also when this is done, what happens? That I will write in then, and if some error comes, what happens? That I'll write in Kutch. Those are, this is for error handling, and this is for what happens after I fetch data from this endpoint. In fetch also, there is then, this tells what happens after I fetch data from this endpoint. So this is Axios library. It's easier to use this. We'll try both of fetch and Axios today. So what I'm going to do is, we have already created, last time we created this employee page. So in this page, I'm going to get users from this endpoint and display it in my page. So to get users, I'm going to use users endpoint. So this, okay, I'll use this endpoint to get the list of users. So I have pasted this. This is to fetch data from this endpoint. This here, what happens is, JSON function makes the data into JSON so that it is readable for us. Then we are logging this data. Let me just check my console. What is the result here? I'll put a name here. Result, and I'm going to start my project, and here, okay, that is an employees page. So what is happening? Somehow it is not coming. Okay, I have to straightly, I shouldn't give the text. So I have fetched data from this endpoint, and the data is here. I have the data in my project. We'll just look into this dev tools. Here, this element, you would have used it. This gives us HTML elements. If I click on it and hover on these things, I'll get the HTML elements for those elements, yeah. And console is where I can see all my console logs. I'm putting console.log, all those things I can see in my yeah, I'll put this, my console panel. Okay, I'll put result, and okay, my result is here. What I have just done is, then what happens is, I have to write a function here. So I can get result from that function, a function that accepts result as a parameter, and I can use that inside my function. So my function, what does my function does is, it logs results. So I have logged my results here. So it is here. So now what I am going to do is I'm going to print all the users in my page. So what happens? What can I do? I can use state here. So I'm going to cons users and set users use state give an empty array here, and when after I fetched the data, I have the result here. So I'm going to set the result to my users variable. So what I'm going to do is let this console be there. I'm going to give set users, and my users is in result dot users. We have result dot users, right? So we have logged it here, logged it and set our users here. Now my users should have all the users. I'm going to log it. Log and check what's inside this variable. Okay. I'm getting a lot of results here because, okay, I'll put users variable and I'm going to refresh it. And yes, so I'm getting all my users in my user variable. So now what I can do is I'm going to use map function. So user variable dot map user dot okay, I'm going to put a JSX element inside this. Here, I'll put a div here. And inside my div, I'm going to print, say, user dot name. Let me check whether my users have a variable called, a property called name. So in my user object, there's age, address, is there a name? There is something called first name, so I'm going to print out first name. Okay. I don't have anything called user variables. I have something called users here, so I have to use it. So what happens here? Okay, some error is coming. What is the error? If I okay, error during render cannot read properties of undefined reading map. Okay, this actually gives me an error. That is because my endpoint is called multiple times. Why is that? Because in every render, this block is going to run multiple times. To avoid that, what we can do? Can someone tell me to run a block of code once? What should I do? There is a hook here. use effect, right? So yeah, we can use use effect. And inside use effect, I can use this block of code. Use effect. So here, inside this, I'm going to use this. And I'm going to use an empty array. So this will run once. Now let's check something is still wrong. Okay. Now we get the expected results. We are getting the list of users in our page from our endpoint. So this is fetch. Now I'm going to use Axios. For that, I'm going to add another terminal. I'm going to add Axios, yarn, and Axios, and I'm going to write the same code using Axios now. So yeah, if an error comes here, say I'm using a wrong URL, what happens here is we get an error here in network. Okay, unquote error. There is an error because our the URL is wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Axios dot get, and I'm going to, we don't need this block, and here I'm going to use catch. So catch error. I'm going to log this error. Okay, console dot log, and okay, some error okay, error. So here, when I add this Axios, it got important here. So I'll go to this, and yeah, there is one error here. No such file or directory. Okay, I'm going to start again. Okay. Here, I don't see my users here. I'll go here and check. Okay. In my console, this error, I have printed this error. Or if I want to give an error message in my page, I can do that too. Say like, I'm going to create error message and set error message, and I can print this. I'm going to comment out this thing and print my error message. These are not used, so I'm going to comment out them too. So here, okay, I'm in employee page and error message. I didn't set the error message yet. I'm going to set my error message here. So if error comes, print some error message. Okay. Here now, this error is printed in my screen. So this is how in Access we can handle errors. But normally in project, we don't use the endpoint inside our component itself. What we normally do is we get the data in another section of the of our app, and what we do is we normally set the data to our Redux state, and so that we don't need to call this data from endpoint every time when we need it. If we set the data in our Redux store, we can use that from any page in our application. Last time we checked this Redux state. So I'm going to, okay, here, last time we created these two states. In home page, what we are doing is we are loading some data to the company page. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to load the data, load the list of employees data in my company state. So I have this store. In the reducer, I have to initialized state. Now I'm going to edit it now. I'm going to put all employees and empty array, and state dot all employees equals action dot payload dot all employees. Okay, what I'm doing here in my slice, Redux state slice, I have an initial state which holds the state of my employee component. Sorry, this is my company. The name I have given is okay, some name. I'll just name it as employee for now. Press company. So this is my company state. In my company state, I'm giving all employees details. So for that, I have created an initial state with empty array, and I have written a reducer to load initial state, that is before editing anything. This is my initial employee details. So here I have edited my reducer. I'm also going to edit my action. Here what I'm doing is I'm getting this data from this function and passing it here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just remove this, and I'm going to get the data from endpoint and pass this data to my state. So I'm going to remove it here and delete this here. And okay, in action, I'm going to paste this here. I'm going to import Axios here. Okay. So I can remove, I don't need these states here. I'll remove them. And okay, I'm going to edit this endpoint. And what I'm going to do is, after getting the data from this endpoint, I'm going to load this data to my state. So in my reducer, in my payload, I have something called all employees. So inside my payload, I'm going to give the same name, and I'll get the user data from result.users. So I'm going to give result.users here. If any error happens, here I'm going to console log for now, or else I can do any other actions if error happens. For now, only when no error happens, I'm going to load my Redux state. So I have written it here. Now I'm going to refresh this page, but I don't get any initial here. So I'm just going to go and check what happens in my home page. Here what happens is I'm passing to data, but my function doesn't accept any data. So I've removed them. Now let me check it. Still some error happens. Let me check what happens here. I'm somehow calling the user point, but am I calling that from action or employee? I have removed that from employee, so not an issue. So from here, somehow my endpoint is getting called, but dispatch is not happening. Let me check why is that. I'm going to console log this result from endpoint. I'll check my log for mine. Okay, that is coming for me. But the result structure is different than I used. Here, I'm getting data. Inside data, I'm getting users. So I have to use data.users. Let me check data.users and let me check my Redux. Still no. So let me debug what happens here. So inside data, let me just console log this, whether this, to check whether this gives me the result. So that gives me the result, no problem with that. So in load initial data state, let me go there and check what happens there. So here load initial state, and I have logged my action here. So let me check that action. What happens here? I'm getting action. Okay, action.payload, all employees. That not an issue. Action.payload, all employees. So I'm going to check this. That is also no issue. But why it is not added there? Employees. Okay. Initial state, all employees, company. Let me check my readers. It is added there. I can see all employees here in my Redux state. Even if I go to the other page, employee page, it will be there. So I can access all employees from my from this all employees page. So this is how this is what we normally do. We get data from endpoint, and we get the data at one point, and load those data to our Redux, and use those data in any page from our application. So this is get endpoint. Say I want to manipulate some data. So what I'm going to do is I'll go to home page. Or else I'll go to employee page. I'm going to bring back the use effect. Or else I'm going to write a function called add employee. Const add employee, and here what I'm going to do is I'm going to use axios.post to add. We use post method. I'm going to use the endpoint they have provided in this site. So to post, here, okay, this is post endpoint for users. I have to post the data something like this. So I'll use that. When I'm using Axios, I'll give the endpoint, and I'll use a comma and give the data they have data in the structure they have provided us. We can give this documentation. We can see this documentation here in Axios page to post. Here they have given dot post, dot get, and dot post. Here endpoint and the data. So I'm using that structure. And what I'm going to do is, after I have posted my data to the endpoint, I'm going to print out the result that I am getting. So option.l. So I'm just going to print out the result here. Post result, I'll name post result. If any error comes, then I'm going to console the error. So log the error. Okay, so I don't need any of this, so I'm going to remove these all things. I have my function here. Wrong syntax I have used. So okay, now I have my function here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a button and I'm going to name it add, and on click, I'm going to use this function. So what this function should do is, this has to post to our endpoint with our data. We'll see how this is done. So I'm going to check my network tab. Here, when I'm clicking on it, what happens is these two requests will go. One is the method is option. This will always go whatever the method we use. There will be two requests will go. One is options and the other one will be our post request. The URL is here, the method is here. So the status which is returned to us from the endpoint, if it is success, it is normally 200, and we'll get a green dot like this. Warning, a yellow dot, or some other a red dot, something like that. And these request headers and request response headers will be added by our Axios and the endpoint. So we don't really need to look into them. This payload is the one we are sending. Here in this part, in our Axios, this part is our payload. This is what we are going to add to our endpoint. So this is the payload, response, and preview. But they both are normally same. What is a response is, after we have added, this is what our data looks like in our backend. So this actually, it's not a defined one. Our endpoint providers will decide on what to give us back. So these endpoint providers give us the full data of the employee we have added. So we have given only first name, last name, and age. They have added null and empty values for all other properties. So this is the added data. This is post endpoint. Like that, we can use put or patch endpoint and delete endpoint. So this is about the this is how to use API from our project. So we are going to use the to-do API in the same site for our to-do app. We are going to start with creating our app from tomorrow, the next session. Anybody have any question on this API? Please try out all the sections we tried, because when we are creating the to-do app, what we are going to do is we are going to use all the things we have already learned. We are not going to use anything new, but we are going to use only the ones we have already learned. So if you also could code with me, you also will come across some issues, and you can ask questions, and it will be very helpful for you if you also could code with me. So please look into this section too. We have some more time, but what I'm going to do is let us discuss on the scope of the project we are going to create from tomorrow, the scope of our to-do application. What I'm thinking of is I'm going to create a to-do page with a list of to-dos. We can get a list. They have endpoint for to-dos. So here, if I go here to get all to-dos, I have an endpoint, and the thing is, we can't, as this is sample ones, we can't actually edit their database. We can't add to their database or edit their database, but all we get is a response from those that endpoint. But what we can do is we can save them in our Redux state, and when we are doing some modification, we can edit our state. So that is what we are going to do. We are going to use this endpoint, and to get the data, we are going to use this endpoint to get the response from a sample API, but we are going to edit our Redux and get those information to our page. So for that, what I'm planning is I'm going to create a page, a to-do, which gives me a list of to-do. And here what going to happen is to-do list. Okay, I'm going to copy. I'm going to have a list. Here, edit. I can click on a button and edit this to do. I'm going to copy and paste this. So yeah, I'm going to have this. Okay, and delete button, and I'm going to have a input here and a button to add. In this database, if I see this, in this API, if I see to-do details, I have something called use ID. So what I'm going to do is, when I'm adding a to-do, I'm going to add a text describing the to-do, and add a employee ID to whom that to-do is assigned to. Emp ID or use ID, they are calling it use ID, so I'll also call it use ID. So this is going to be add. Okay. This is going to be a select input, and I'm going to edit. So when I'm editing also, I can change the user ID and edit it or delete it then. So, or delete the to-do list. And I'm going to have a search input where I can type the text in my to-do description and get only that to do. And also I'm going to have checkbox in front of all the items, so I can tick on those items, and I can do bulk actions like delete all or yeah, delete all. I can do that bulk action. And I'm also going to, we are already created the employee employee page. I'm also going to use that employee page to list out how many to-dos for each employees. So I'm going to have two pages, a to-do page and an employee page. The employee page is going to list out employee details and number of to-dos for that employee. So this is what I'm planning to do. For this, we'll use the router to route to the both of the pages. And to add, we are not going to do any routes, but I'm planning to use a confirmation box when I delete. A confirmation box will pop up and I can confirm to delete. And also we are going to use this state to manage my employee page state and to-do page state. And then use hooks, we of course have to use to get the data and assign the data. And of course, we are going to use the endpoint. So we are going to use all the section we have already learned. If anybody wants any other functions or actions in our app, please mention that. So from next session, we'll start doing it. What we are going to do next session, tomorrow is we are going to look into the design. We are just going to design these two pages together. We'll design how the list looks and how our confirmation box is going to come and how all the inputs are going to come. So we'll look into those CSS and classes and the root next tomorrow. So anybody have any questions? So thank you. I'll hand it over to Veronica. Veronica, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. And participants, you can request for doubts or any other clarification through feedback forms. And thank you all for participating and being here with us. And a special thanks to our speaker for dedicating her time for us. Your time and effort are greatly appreciated. I hope it contributes immensely to the success of our sessions. And thank you, everyone. And also one more announcement. Our next session is on tomorrow at 7 p.m. Please join. Thank you.